Sometimes, when the day starts winding down and you're just sitting there with your evening tea, or maybe flipping through a magazine, you catch yourself thinking that things don't feel quite right anymore. Your body carries a little extra tiredness that doesn't shake off easily. Your mind seems to wander more than it stays put, and those small everyday tasks, like remembering where you left your keys or following a conversation all the way through, take more effort than they used to. You might mention it to a friend over the phone and both of you chuckle about how age is catching up. But deep inside, there's a quiet question. Is this really all there is to getting older? Let me sit with you for a bit and explain something I've seen make a real difference for so many people in their later years. A whole lot of that mental heaviness, those annoying memory slips, and even the quicker irritation that pops up aren't always unavoidable parts of aging. Very often they connect straight back to how your sleep is working, or not working, for your brain each night. I'm Dr. Michael Kent, and for over 20 years now I've made it my work to understand how sleep shapes brain health as we move through our 60s, 70s, and beyond. I've talked with countless folks who describe the same frustrations, forgetting names in the middle of chatting with neighbors, feeling short-tempered over little things like a delayed appointment, or waking up already feeling like the day is too much before it even starts. They come to me believing these are just the natural signs of time passing. But time and again, when we look carefully, sleep patterns that have slipped out of balance turn out to be doing more harm than anyone realized. The advice most people get about sleep, try to get 8 hours and you'll be fine, misses so much of what's really going on. Sleep isn't just lying still for a set number of hours. It's when your brain becomes incredibly active in ways that keep you thinking clearly. Night after night, it acts like a gentle housekeeper, sweeping out the waste materials that pile up from all your daytime thoughts and movements. It carefully stores away the memories you want to hold on to. It repairs and strengthens the delicate links between brain cells that let you reason and remember. And it resets your feelings so you can wake up with a calmer, more even outlook, instead of starting the day already on edge or down. Whenever that important nighttime process gets shortened, broken up, or thrown off, even by what seem like minor things, the brain feels it right away. The effects show up in ordinary life in ways that can feel small at first, but build over time. You might start a sentence and then pause because the right word just won't come, or you find yourself getting annoyed waiting at the doctor's office because waiting feels harder to handle, or you sit down to look at photos from a family gathering and struggle to keep your attention on the details. According to the National Institute on Aging, close to half of all adults past 65 have ongoing sleep difficulties. Yet more than 60% of those same people think the problems are harmless, or simply what happens as you get older. The quiet reality is that these sleep troubles can slowly wear down how well your brain functions, without any sharp pain or clear signals to let you know it's happening. What really stands out is that one of the biggest quiet influences on keeping your mind sharp in later years usually isn't too much sugar in your diet, the daily stresses that come with life, or the family genes you were born with. More often than not, it's the everyday habits tied to when you go to bed and what happens during the night. Over the next little while, I want to carefully go over the 5 most frequent sleep patterns that quietly affect senior brains, then explain the simple research-backed changes drawn from solid studies at Harvard, Stanford, and the National Institute on Aging that can help protect your memory, sharpen your concentration, and keep your emotions more balanced. These aren't difficult or overwhelming adjustments. They're practical steps that fit into the routine you're already living. Before we keep going, if it's okay with you, just type your age in the comments. I always appreciate seeing who's listening because it helps me know I'm speaking directly to people who might be noticing these same changes and want straightforward ways to feel clearer and more like themselves. So let's get into what's really taking place inside your brain when sleep timing drifts around, because this explanation is something most people never hear in plain language. Once we reach our 60s and 70s, the circadian rhythm, that natural internal timer that manages alertness, memory strength, focus ability, and emotional steadiness, begins to become a little less adaptable than it once was. Think of it like a train station that used to operate on a perfect, reliable schedule. Every train arrived and left exactly when it was supposed to, keeping everything running smoothly. But if the schedule suddenly becomes unpredictable, with trains showing up at random times, disorder spreads through the whole system. Your brain works the same way. The main clock in your brain, a small region known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, relies on consistent daily cues to keep all its rhythms coordinated. When bedtime shifts from one night to the next, perhaps you turn in early one evening because you're especially tired, then stay up later the next because you got caught up talking with family. The deep non-REM sleep phases, which play such a key role in turning short-term experiences into long-term memories, end up getting noticeably shorter. A team at the University of Colorado kept track of 300 adults across 8 years, and their findings were clear and consistent. People whose sleep schedules varied a lot night to night experienced a 30% faster decline in their ability to remember particular events and details from their lives, and this connection held true even when they were still getting about the same total amount of sleep overall. I know this can be hard to accept at first. Many people say to me, "But I still manage 7 or 8 hours most nights. Why should the exact time I go to bed change anything?" The key lies in the difference between how long you're asleep and how effectively your brain uses that time. Total hours give you the duration, but regular timing allows the full depth and quality of those restorative stages to happen. Without consistency, even enough hours leave important parts of the brain's nighttime work incomplete. If you've ever stepped into another room and immediately forgotten what you went in there for, feel free to add the word foggy to your comment so I know you're right there with this. Another habit I see so often is staying awake in bed for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, or sometimes nearly an hour, figuring it's not really a problem since you're at least in the right place to rest. It seems harmless enough in the moment, but your brain is constantly forming associations based on what happens, and lying awake for long periods in bed teaches it to connect the bed with being alert, planning, or worrying, rather than sinking into calm rest. Over time, that association makes sleep lighter and more fragmented because the bed stops being a reliable cue for relaxation. It's similar to trying to park your car in a spot that's become a hectic, noisy intersection when it should be tucked away in a quiet garage. The peaceful space gets crowded out. Johns Hopkins researchers followed 250 adults aged 65 and older and discovered that those who regularly remained awake in bed for extended stretches ended up having 42% more awakenings throughout the night and higher scores for anxiety the next morning. That ongoing pattern quietly contributes to feeling mentally foggy during the day, becoming irritated more quickly over small frustrations, and sometimes developing a new sense of unease or nervousness that feels strange, because it wasn't part of your usual way of being. Then there's the habit of going to bed much earlier than necessary, often 7 or 8 in the evening, because it seems like the sensible choice to guarantee plenty of rest. On the surface, it makes sense, but your brain actually needs a sufficient stretch of wakeful hours during the day to generate sleep pressure, that natural buildup of tiredness that drives you into the deeper, more healing parts of sleep. When bedtime arrives too early, both slow-wave deep sleep and REM sleep with its dreaming phases get shortened, which directly weakens memory consolidation and emotional regulation. Picture your brain during waking hours as a sponge absorbing all the experiences of the day. If it hasn't had enough time to take in that daytime activity, it can't fully release and renew itself overnight. Researchers at the University of Michigan examined older adults who chose very early bedtimes and found their REM cycles were 20% shorter even though they remained in bed for 9 or 10 hours altogether. That shortened REM can closely resemble the first hints of cognitive slowing, yet in many cases the brain itself remains healthy, and adjusting the balance between wakefulness and sleep reverses the pattern. Nighttime light, even modest amounts from a hallway fixture left on, a phone glowing while charging nearby, or a television set to low, surprises almost everyone when I explain it. It signals to your brain that it's not completely dark yet, and suppresses production of melatonin, the protective hormone that helps shield nerve cells and initiates the deepest, most repairing sleep stages. You can think of the nighttime brain as a factory that needs total darkness to run its maintenance crew efficiently. Any light keeps some machinery running when it should be off, so waste accumulates longer. Stanford investigators tested the effects on adults 65 and older and found that even low-intensity light at night reduced melatonin levels by 50%, resulting in shallower sleep overall and less effective memory formation the following day. People tend to downplay this because the damage happens so gradually and doesn't come with any sudden discomfort, but it quietly adds to the burden on clear thinking. Long-term dependence on sleep medications completes the list of common habits. These can provide real relief for brief periods when sleep is especially difficult, but when used nightly over many months or years, Many of them dampen the deep non-REM and REM stages that the brain relies on for consolidating learning, clearing harmful buildup, and maintaining emotional balance. A study published in JAMA Neurology examined seniors taking benzodiazepine sleep aids consistently for more than 6 months and reported a 23% reduction in slow-wave sleep, the crucial stage responsible for removing proteins like beta-amyloid associated with cognitive risks. Even when the person believes they've slept sufficiently, the brain misses out on complete overnight repair, leaving subtle shortfalls that accumulate. The reassuring truth that runs through everything here is that these habits don't create permanent, unfixable damage. Brains hold on to impressive resilience well into the 60s, 70s, and later, and meaningful recovery often follows when the conditions improve. Awareness combined with small, consistent changes makes the difference, not fear or worry. To bring this closer to everyday life, let me share 2 true stories from people I've guided. Margaret was 72 when she first sat down with me. She looked exhausted and more than a little frightened as she explained how her mind seemed to be slipping away from her. "Doctor," she said, "I walk into rooms and stand there blank, not remembering why I'm there. Words I use every day just won't come when I need them, and it's happening more and more." These moments scared her deeply. She worried about becoming forgetful in ways that would affect her independence and her family. She believed she was getting 8 solid hours of sleep most nights, but as we talked further, she described how her bedtime varied quite a bit. Sometimes 9 if she felt worn out early, other times closer to 11 if the evening went on. And she'd often lie awake for a full hour, her thoughts spinning through concerns about her grown children or replaying minor events from the day. We began the rest protocol together, moving carefully through each part, and within 6 weeks she returned looking noticeably brighter. She told me her mornings had changed. She now felt around 80% alert and clear upon waking instead of the foggy 40% she'd grown accustomed to. Nighttime awakenings fell from 4 or 5 times to just 1 or 2. The anxiety that had begun to shadow her days eased considerably, and she regained a sense of trust in her own thinking. Memory wasn't suddenly perfect, but her brain felt nourished and rested. She said quietly, "I was convinced I was losing my mind for good, but it turns out my brain was just exhausted from not having the right kind of rest." Harold came to me at 68 with a different but related struggle. He'd started going to bed at 7 every evening a few years earlier, thinking extra time in bed would protect his health and energy. Unfortunately, he would wake around 3 in the morning, wide awake and unable to fall back asleep for hours. Memory testing showed a mild decline in short-term recall, and he'd been relying on a low-dose sleep medication for a long time. We worked on establishing a steady wake-up time each morning, reducing any sources of light after sunset, and gradually shifting bedtime later in small increments so his body could adjust comfortably. After 8 weeks, the data from his sleep tracker showed his deep sleep had increased by 35%. On memory tests, he improved from remembering 15 out of 20 words to 19 out of 20. The persistent morning haze that used to linger cleared away entirely, and his mood during the day became far more stable without the emotional roller coaster he'd experienced before. The rest protocol successfully realigned his natural brain repair cycles, and he expressed genuine surprise at how much sharper, lighter, and more capable he felt overall. Experiences like Margaret's and Harold's are far from rare. Hundreds of older adults I've worked with show clear, trackable progress in memory, mood, and daily sharpness when their sleep habits receive thoughtful attention. The framework that has guided so many of these improvements is one I call the REST protocol: rhythm, education, stimulus control, and timing. Let me walk you through each part carefully and practically so you can see exactly how it might fit into your own days and nights. The starting point is rhythm. Set a fixed wake-up time. Choose an hour that works realistically for you, perhaps 7 o'clock, perhaps 7:30, and make it your rule to get up at that same moment every single morning, regardless of how well or poorly you slept. Even if the night felt restless or short, rise anyway, let some light in, have your breakfast, maybe take a few slow steps around the house. This single practice powerfully stabilizes your circadian clock and strengthens the natural buildup of sleep pressure for the following night. It provides your brain with a clear, reliable marker for when daytime starts and when nighttime should arrive. Harvard research demonstrated that holding to a consistent wake time boosted deep sleep by 30%, within only 2 weeks for many participants. Along with that, be intentional about naps. If a short nap feels good during the day, keep it strictly to 20 minutes or less and make sure it's finished well before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Extended naps, or ones later in the day, reduce the healthy pressure your body needs to fall into truly deep, restorative nighttime sleep. In place of long naps, focus on daytime habits that encourage natural tiredness later, gentle activities that move your body without exhausting it. One of the most straightforward and effective ways to build that sleep pressure is through morning light exposure combined with light movement. Aim for 15 to 20 minutes of natural daylight soon after you wake, perhaps by stepping outside for a slow walk around your yard or block, sitting near an open window where the sun reaches you, or even standing on your porch with a cup of coffee. That early sunlight helps recalibrate your internal timer, speeds up how quickly you fall asleep in the evening, and increases the depth of the sleep you achieve. Pairing the light with mild movement, like easy walking, gentle stretching, or light household chores, further supports the process by tiring your body in a healthy, gradual way. Stimulus control comes into play when you often find yourself awake in bed for too long. The guideline is clear and kind. If 20 to 30 minutes pass without sleep arriving, leave the bed calmly, move to a different room if you can, keep all lighting very soft and low, and choose an activity that's intentionally dull and non-stimulating. You might flip through an old photo album without much focus, organize a drawer slowly, listen to quiet instrumental music, or simply sit in a comfortable chair breathing steadily. Avoid anything that engages your mind strongly. No phones, no television, no reading material that's interesting or exciting. This method gently retrains your brain to associate the bed only with falling asleep quickly and resting deeply, not with wakeful thinking or frustration. The Johns Hopkins team found that seniors applying this technique reduced their average nighttime awakenings by 42% across 6 weeks, leading to mornings that felt noticeably fresher and more alert. Regarding bedtime, the window that works best for most older adults falls between 9:30 and 10:30 at night. If your current routine sits outside that range, perhaps much earlier or much later, avoid trying to make a sudden jump. Instead, adjust gradually by moving bedtime about 15 minutes later every 2 or 3 nights until you settle comfortably into the ideal zone. This slower shift allows your body to adapt without stress and frequently results in extended periods of deep, slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, both of which enhance how solidly memories get stored and how evenly emotions stay regulated. Findings from the University of Michigan showed that seniors who optimized their bedtime in this way improved their performance on cognitive assessments by 15 to 20% after about 4 weeks. The final pieces involve protecting darkness at night and thoughtfully reviewing any regular sleep medications with your doctor. After the sun sets, switch to dim, warm-colored lighting. Think soft table lamps or night lights with a gentle yellow glow, rather than bright overhead lights. Position electronic devices screen down or in another room, and turn off televisions well ahead of bedtime. Preserving your natural melatonin production supports deeper sleep stages and more effective overnight brain maintenance. If sleep aids are part of your nightly routine, have an open conversation with your physician about whether continuing them remains the best choice, or if alternatives might better support long-term brain health. Even modest refinements in this area often lead to outsized improvements in how you feel. When you put the rest protocol into practice day by day, the benefits tend to unfold in stages that feel motivating and sustainable. During the first week, sleep usually grows a little deeper overall. Interruptions in the middle of the night become fewer, and mornings start bringing a subtle but welcome increase in mental brightness. By the second week, most people notice they fall asleep more quickly after getting into bed. Any background anxiety quiets down slightly, and daytime alertness feels more dependable from morning through afternoon. In weeks 3 and 4, the gains become easier to recognize and enjoy. Recalled details surface more readily in conversations. Focus holds steadier during reading or hobbies. Memory for recent events strengthens noticeably, and emotional responses feel calmer and less reactive to small stressors. From week 4 onward, the deep slow wave and REM phases settle into a consistent rhythm. Reliance on daytime naps decreases, and a broader sense of cognitive clarity returns, making ordinary activities feel smoother, less effortful, and more enjoyable. The whole process is like a careful, gentle reset for the brain, beginning quietly but growing into something profoundly restorative once steady rhythms take hold. To be completely straightforward, the REST protocol supports healthier sleep that benefits brain function, but is not a cure or direct treatment for dementia, Alzheimer's, or other neurological disorders. If you take any prescribed medications, whether for sleep, blood pressure, mood, heart health, or anything else, never discontinue or adjust them independently. Consult your doctor first. For anyone living with diagnosed sleep apnea, significant cardiac conditions, depression, or similar concerns, speak with your physician before introducing notable routine changes. The wisest path is gradual. Establish the steady wake-up time for several days or a week until it feels automatic. Then slowly incorporate the bedtime adjustment, followed by stimulus control and light management as your body settles comfortably. These remain safe, low-risk modifications backed by clear, measurable positive effects on brain performance. Here's the challenge I offer you personally. Select one single component of the rest protocol that seems approachable, perhaps committing to that unchanging wake-up time, experimenting with a slightly later bedtime, minimizing light after dark, or applying the get-out-of-bed rule when sleep doesn't come quickly, and follow it faithfully every day for 30 full days. During that month, pay gentle attention to how clear-headed you feel upon waking, how stable your mood remains through the hours, and how reliably your memory serves you in daily situations. When the 30 days end, return here and share your observations in a comment. Tell me and others what shifted for you. It can spark encouragement for someone reading along and help reinforce your own progress through the simple act of reflection. The brain you carry has supported you across decades of experiences, relationships, challenges, and joys. It has earned more than a casual dismissal as just getting older. Through reliable, caring sleep practices, you can actively nurture its strength, helping memory stay dependable, focus remain steady, and emotional balance endure. Next week, I plan to explore one unexpected daily habit that often lifts brain fog in seniors, and I feel confident at least one suggestion will prompt you to reconsider long-held ideas about keeping your mind vibrant.